Hello there, Mad Mike here, and welcome back to the channel. And today we are going to do a trailer breakdown for the horror film The Empty Man. Now, this is something I came across. I do like to do kind of obscure horror trailers on here, just to kind of highlight the genre a little bit, because it's a genre that's it's ailing these days. It's not very strong. It's not as strong as it was in the 80s or the 90s or even the early 2000s. Um, it's a very underappreciated genre, so I do like to highlight horror movies when I can. Now, this is a bit of a different story. I might have to tear into this thing pretty bad, but this is from 20th Century Studios, formerly known as 20th Century Fox. So this is technically a Disney release, although I'm not sure when this film was actually greenlit. It may have been before the buyout or anything like that. But regardless, this film is being released through them, and it is actually being released to theaters, which I think is a little odd, especially for a horror film like that. I figured they'd try to shift that over to some form of a streaming service. Um, but regardless, it's getting released on October 23rd of this year. So only in actually about a couple of weeks. So I'm actually not sure which number trailer this is, but it is the most recent one. So basically, we start out in the trailer where we're on this bridge, and basically this group of your standard kind of high school cannon fodder for a movie like this, like a Final Destination or a Friday the 13th or something. Probably actually closer to a Final Destination or maybe even a Candyman, because that's what this movie is being compared to endlessly now because of the way this trailer goes, and I'll explain that. Well, basically, you have your cavalcade of characters. I think there's like 7 or 8 teenagers in the scene, and basically you have your cookie cutter. So the main girl, whose name is Mandy, they do mention her name in the trailer. She starts talking. Actually, sorry, even before I get into that, just to mention, this is also based on a series of graphic novels by Boom Studios. I've heard of them, but I don't know many of their properties. So I mean, if anybody's a fan, if you can clarify that a little bit for me. But moving into the trailer, we're onto this bridge, and there's this girl, and she basically explains how to summon the Empty Man, which is kind of like, it's an urban legend type of thing. Again, very much like a Candyman, in terms of a film aspect, or like a Bloody Mary or something like that. That kind of a thing. And basically, what happens is she starts blowing on this like empty. Looks like a beer bottle or something like that she just picked up. So she's just blowing on the bottle. And she says, all you have to do is blow on the bottle 5 times and think about the Empty Man. And then the first night, you hear him. The second night, you see him. And the third night, he catches you. So that's supposed to be the moniker behind this particular urban legend. But again, it's really no different than things we've seen before. It's very generic in terms of how it's set up. And the other thing is, they reveal how to summon the Empty Man in the trailer. I feel like that's something you probably should have kept under wraps until people actually went and saw the film. I don't think that's something you should have had in the trailer. And again, that's more of a fault of the advertising department, but the plot device itself is worn out and old. So you move on past that scene, and basically, they have a little bit of dialogue there with the Mandy characters, kind of like the outcast goth girl, sort of. And basically they carry that through the trailer, where she's kind of the main part of the trailer. So I assume that she's probably one of the characters we follow around the most in the film, where she's kind of inciting this whole thing to try and summon the Empty Man. And at the same time, we have this other guy who is apparently, he never really gets properly introduced in the trailer. We just kind of see him through some edits. And he's apparently, I actually read a little bit, he's a retired cop who's on the search of these disappearances or something like that associated with the Empty Man. And basically, through this, I think that's where we see him during the trailer. And a lot of the early parts, again, it's not actually a very long trailer. It's only like 1 minute and 30 seconds. But the middle part of the trailer is pretty much made up with him. Mix of scenes with him and scenes with the kids, where he's like bewilderment and stuff like that, and like random things are happening. Nothing really, while this other girl, Mandy, has her voiceover where she's explaining how the Empty Man works. So again, very standard. I wouldn't say anything stood out to me. Now the end of this is what was like, really, like, come on. And basically, there's a one little end scene that's kind of the cap of the trailer, and the retired cop is going into this room, and this room has some kind of like a skeleton either statue, or if it's real, it's like a demon skeleton or something. It's like malformed. And he walks towards it, and then as he gets a little bit closer to it, something comes out of it, like something emerges from it, like a cocoon or something like that, and reaches out towards him. And as that happens, he like turns and runs toward the door. But there's kind of like a weird tracking shot moment with that too. But during this entire scene, the Mandy character keeps saying over and over again, "The empty man, the empty man," like over the whole scene, and she just keeps saying that over and over again. And you can tell the last like 5 or 6 times that she says it, it's like it's an ADR line that they just repeated. It's not she didn't say it 5 times. It's they took a line and they repeated it 5 times. You're telling me that you couldn't have her come in and just record some dialogue to stick over the trailer if you were really that desperate, or at least change the tune or get it from a different part of the movie? You know, you could definitely pull and clip it for as many times as it's said during the film. You can pull and clip that from 5 or 6 different places and have unique ones to do that with, instead of just repeating the same 2 lines over and over again. I know I'm obsessing over sound editing, but come on, this is supposed to be an advertisement for your film. I don't think you put anything out there that wowed anybody. Now, this could have also been one of those films that, you know, it was kind of, they knew was dead in the water. It was a 20th Century Fox film they didn't put any effort into. And now that it's owned by Disney, they're just going to push it out into the proverbial meat grinder. And basically they don't care because they're playing with house money on it anyway. So even if they don't get back that much, they didn't put a lot of their own money into it, if that's the case, which I don't know if it is the case. This movie could have been greenlit much sooner or after the buyout. So again, if that's the case, it doesn't really make sense to me why they wouldn't try and put this thing to streaming. Now, some of the effects we also see in the trailer are a little bad. You can see, you know, you can see the seams, kind of, that kind of an idea. There's a scene where a car actually careens off of a road. That one's actually not terrible, but it's kind of from a far angle, so you don't have to be as detailed. But there are a couple shots, especially that last shot with that creature coming out of like the bone skeleton cocoon thing. That did not look right, and I don't know if that's maybe an aesthetic choice or if that was some bad editing or bad CGI or bad work there. It kind of reminded me a little bit, if anybody's ever seen the movie Lockout, there's 2 CGI scenes in that film. There's one at the very beginning and one at the very end, and they basically look like Sega games. Like they look horrid. I don't know who they got for the CGI on that, but like the space station looks fine, but those chase scenes look god fucking awful. They don't look finished. And that's what this kind of reminded me of, in a sense, of that kind of a visual where it reverted to almost like maybe some coloring on like a comic panel. Maybe that's what it is. But it reverted to something that didn't appear to me to be natural film, which is even weirder because it's just a scene of the guy literally running out of the room and the monster chasing him. Like, I don't understand why you couldn't film that from a couple different angles and edit it normally, unless, again, it's an aesthetic choice and that's going to come up later in the film, and that's kind of a motif, maybe to bring it back to the comic book, because it is based off of a graphic novel. So I don't know necessarily if that's the case, but those are just some weird things that stuck out to me in this trailer. It does not give away the cardinal sin of trailers in the sense that it doesn't really give away much, other than the fact that the empty man is an urban legend Candyman type of character, and these kids manage to summon him. And I'm assuming he picks them off one by one, in Freddy Krueger or Final Destination style, and then after that, then the retired cop has to try and stop him, or stop the entity, or give it rest, or do whatever the hell they have to do in this movie to get rid of it. You know, again, it actually reminds me a little bit of The Ring, I guess, in that scenario too, if they do wind up going with kind of the redemption or the honoring the dead thing. But it's, like I said, it seems very generic. It seems like it's borrowing a lot from other films that have done a lot more in the genre. And it doesn't seem like it was made with very much heart in it. So even the advertising, like I said, doesn't seem like it was made with that much effort. But you know, that I'm going to link the trailer in the description below. I want to know what you think. You know, have you seen the trailer for the movie already? Are you more familiar with the comic book or the graphic novel rather? And you know, if you have any compare and contrasts after seeing the trailer. Any of those thoughts, put them in the comments below as usual. I like to read them. Hit the bell for notifications, hit the like button, subscribe, and remember, I live my life free of compromise. Do you?